Hello and welcome to Hearts Wide Open, the Men's Health Podcast. I'm your host, Dennis. Thanks for tuning in to redefine what it means to be a man together with us. Today, we'll be talking to a very special guest, my girlfriend, Tamara. Last time I shared about my side of moving in together and the challenges and growth that come with that. And if you haven't yet, make sure to go back and listen to the previous episode before giving this one a go, because then you'll be prepared and then you know a little bit more about the context of how this episode came together. Before we jump into today's episode, just a reminder on how you can support the podcast if you are a fan of the show. Please do remember to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure to follow us on our Instagram to stay tuned and updated on everything Hearts Wide Open podcast, events, and everyday content about men's health. A quick note, if you were too late to submit your questions in time for us to answer on this episode, don't worry, we'll still answer them on our social channels. So just comment under this episode or message us on Instagram if you'd like us to do that. And I would love to go into your questions too. But first, warm welcome, Tamara, to Hearts Wide Open back again.
Hi.
It's different, no?
Yeah, it kind of feels very special, especially because we're going to go deeper inside our relationship and our, being together, the way we are together. And I'm very excited actually because I feel like we have learned a lot. We've learned a ton. It was like the biggest accelerator for my growth in a couple of years actually. So yeah, it's a mixture of excitement and also I feel very humble to go into this.
Last time you were introduced as a trauma practitioner, someone who works with trauma. We were already dating at the time, long distance. You're here. It's a podcast official.
Yeah.
And we're in London right now. Maybe nice to know. That's why the setup is a bit different. I actually brought back a microphone. If you are viewing this on video, you can see that I have this little mic with me. So this is actually the same microphone that Suresh and I used to record our first two episodes of this podcast, first two ever. Now we're almost crossing 50 episodes and I'm bringing this one back. This is an episode from the road. So we're in London for a podcast conference, actually. We went to the podcast show, the biggest conference for podcasters and people from the podcast industry in Europe. And we learned a lot of exciting things, met a lot of cool people.
The stars of the industry.
That was just super cool and brought everything, made everything feel more alive for me.
Mm-hmm.
Got tons of new input on how we can improve this podcast, where we could go. A lot of cool insights. What was your favorite part of this trip so far?
Yeah, for me also the convention. I so love to get behind the scenes of how to make a podcast and how all the people behind it, because before everything was on stage and I put it on pedestal, and now I feel like it's doable and I just want to get my voice out. And for the first time, this thing of going live and sharing my voice myself became real and more virtual. This was favorite part.
And you're now also playing with the idea of starting your own podcast, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so much go more into dating and then the intersection with trauma and also the way the nervous system is working. So how you can get more into your own growth by reflecting and really being conscious of the way relationship is bringing forth your triggers.
Mm-hmm. So you actually, you already knew this, but you are a relationship expert.
With you, I became one. I became one with you, I would say.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, before we jump into the questions, or you are working with people who are in relationships. For an outside person, this might seem now that you're the relationship expert, you know how to do everything. You're the expert of, relationships. So you must be able to have a really wonderful, perfect relationship yourself. I don't think so. So I'm just wondering how you feel about that.
Thanks for your honest words. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So it's a different thing to know all the theory, know all the tools, but if I'm in it, I also get overwhelmed. I experience the same difficulties that every other person. because relationships are the strongest inferno pot for getting triggered. And it's the art of staying conscious in that trigger. And for sure, all the knowledge helps and also all the training helps. But I have to do my own work as well.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you have to relate to the people that you're working with. And if you're not also having your own struggles that you're going through and resolving and, experiencing, then I guess that's a bit hard.
Yeah, I feel like it's a myth that therapists or coaches or anyone related to the psychological and medical health field is perfectly healed.
Yeah, but I do think as well, like when it's different when you're working on yourself or when you're working with others, because I also mentioned this on the last episode. I think it can be very helpful to speak to other people about stuff that you're going through, simply to get an outside perspective. Because when you're in the middle of it, you are not always able to put yourself in an outside objective like perspective to see things like that. So I think when you're with me in a relationship, we go through crazy stuff with all the emotions. We're like also having fights, also like resolving our issues, but yeah, also struggling sometimes. But then when you're working with someone else who's struggling, then you are like calm because you're not in the middle of that. So you can actually help coach them.
Exactly. I have like a metaphor for this. So usually when you go through the day and everything is fine, you are in your adult self. You're like in the presence, you're grown up, you have like full access to executive function, you're a whole person, no? Like being in the green zone of yourself, being grounded. But if you get triggered, you kind of lose that access to your grown up version and you get reactive, you get triggered, actually like a child. It's like reenacting the child version of yourself. And for me as a therapist, I can be in my own space. I can be my grown up version because I'm not triggered. But in relationship, for sure, I would just get as triggered as every other person because then it's personal and intimate.
Last episode, I talked about how we just moved in together. It's been 2 months now. I talked about some of the ways we struggle in our relationship, how we deal with things, and so on. How did you actually feel about me doing this?
First of all, I thought it was very brave to open up about that because it's like really a close up, a sneak peek behind the scenes, like it's really your personal life. And I also felt like very interested in your personal perspective. And then the third thing was I was already getting excited about sharing both of our perspectives because I seldomly see couples going live together. And both sides can be enlightened. Usually it's just one perspective or the other. And then you can't really have the full picture and see what's actually going on because I feel like especially arguments, especially the whole communication thing is always about you want to be objective, but then in the end it will always be subjective. So I feel like the more full, like a 360 degrees perspective you can get, the more you can also learn and share in a nice way. Yeah. And then the topics that stood out to me were so much about how to bring together both of our needs. And I feel like this is such an interesting and probably the most fuelful topic for couples, especially after long distance coming together. I also love the way you open up and the way you really share what was going on for you. Like as a man, as a boyfriend, as you, Dennis.
I think that's also something that the relationship can do for you to like provide a safe space where you feel like you can open up more, but also sometimes I don't realize that I need to share my feelings. And then I recently asked you to just help me out sometimes, point that out to me.
Yeah.
That, hey, is there anything you want to talk about? What's really bothering you?
Everyone in a relationship can relate to that, like the subtext or this telepathic, psychic idea we sometimes have, like the way we communicate. So, for example, for me, it's normal to do things a certain way, and then I assume that for you it's also normal. And where do we like take the hook, and where do we dig deeper, and where do we ask the question, and where do we lay back and let things happen? In a natural flow, and I feel like this is one of the things we are figuring out, and it's getting easier the more we get to know each other. What's important to that, or what's like the foundation to even be able to do that? I feel like it's the level and the intensity and the quality of our friendship.
I remember, for example, sometimes I'm annoyed of something and I walk around super grumpy in a bad mood, and I'm not even aware that I'm in that mood because I'm in my child self. I'm like reacting to stuff. And then like, just recently you asked me, hey, is there anything you want to talk about, you want to open up about? And then that was really good when I realized that it's really helpful if my partner sometimes helps realize that I want to talk about something. So that was just an example about that. But yeah, so the Hearts Wide Open community did send us some questions. Let's see how this goes. We'll answer them, and I think the one who feels it just starts answering, and then the other one can add on to that or disagree if necessary.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Ready to go. How long did you date before moving in together, and when is the right time to take this step? We dated 1.5, 1 year, 1.5.
Something in this range.
1 year when we decided that we wanted to do this,
Yeah.
and now it's almost
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it depends actually. So for me, like relationship is one of my maybe the biggest priority in my life. And also I'm a bit of a risk taker and very open personality. So I feel like there was this moment when we both were agreeing and also we were pretty sure that this is like a bigger thing for us. Like we felt like the relationship is really working and we saw a future together. And I think it wasn't even that much talk about the logistics. It was more about we had this very intense feeling that we wanted to be together more and that we really want to share our lives and then see how it goes. So this was for me the ignition phase.
I think it really depends on you and your partner. Where are you in life? Do you want that right now? We're both in our early 30s, so we've had our fair share of relationships and we've had some experiences prior to this relationship, and I think we could see pretty soon that, hey, this is really nice, that this could work out really well. So that's why I drew my confidence, because I knew that would be nice. Like it would be like I was ready to take it to that next level and then explore how that goes and how that would be. Because everything I saw before that was amazing.
So when you like were picturing it and when you're like feeling into it, you had this like really good feeling about it, like a very clear, nice vision of the future.
Yeah, safe. Like yeah, I felt safe and good about it. Like okay, yeah, I knew from previous experiences as well that moving in together is another level. You run into new challenges, but I was also very ready to do that and to explore that with you. And I think again, it's for everyone, it's different. Yeah, especially from long distance to together is a big step.
Oh yeah.
But I also think that when you're doing long distance, because we visit each other for a week or 2 weeks in a row, you're kind of living together for those 2 weeks. And so you have like a sneak peek, but then again, it's different because now I mentioned this on the previous episode a little bit as well, how that's different.
Yeah. But especially that you are aware of from previous experiences about the pitfalls and about the dangers, you could make an even more conscious choice. You weren't like blindly going into it.
Next question. Did you ever feel scared that moving in together might ruin the relationship?
Me for sure.
Not at all. No, but I was like, yeah, but like, I mean, for me, it was taking it to the next level. A high chance that it will work out based on what I saw before, and low chance that it won't. But then at least we tried. You know, you learn something either way.
That's true. For me also, like I said, I'm a risk taker here, so I felt like we will grow definitely. But I was just a bit scared that because I have like those anxiety issues in my relationship, not in my relationship, but which get triggered by intimacy. And I was really scared that it would be too much and that you would like ditch me.
Oh, there. And I had the feeling I would still sometimes feel like I'm too little. And that's something that a lot of relationships actually feel. And it's also interesting that it's often the male female dynamic, that females often, I read this somewhere, females all the time feel like they're too much and men feel like they're too.
I definitely felt that pretty strongly.
Then we have a question. What was the hardest part logistically about merging your lives under one roof?
For me, because I was the one moving in and you were the one being there already, and the beginning was very important for me in order to feel at home in the new space, that I could bring some items like a lamp, a blanket, some curtains, which were mine. So I felt when I looked around, also felt represented and at home, and also like have my like feminine essence there, and also just my spirit, my style.
Yeah, I think that's very important, and that's also what I was. That was actually what my main struggle, possibly the hardest part for me, was to accommodate that for you, because I wanted to, like, I emptied half of my closet so we can share it and you can make it your own, and I try to make space here and there so you can move in with yourself and like with your things as well, so make it a bit your space too, like our space. But then I still have a housemate who is also living with us. He's moving out at the end of this month, and shout out to him. He's an amazing guy, and it's been a really nice time living with him. At the same time, like, we had this overlap of 2 months where we're living with the three of us, and then it wasn't 100% possible to make it really our space because there was still a third person. Let's go for the next one. I really value having my own space. How do you make sure not to lose yourself now that you're spending so much time together and in each other's space?
Ooh, big one. I think you referred to it already a lot in your podcast, no?
What do you mean?
Usually in a relationship, there's always a dynamic going on. Like, there's usually one person who's more like the clingy one, who wants to like connect, do everything together. And then there's the other one who wants to be a little bit more independent and to do the things they used to do their things. And that's like a spectrum. And I feel like as long as the spectrum is kind of like in a balanced way, you can also view this as strength and learn from each other.
This is something that I'm definitely also struggling with because, well, we both used to live by ourselves with a housemate maybe, but like not in a relationship, not with a partner before this. And so I mentioned this on the previous episode too, that I sometimes feel like there's not really as much space for me. Like before I could just do whatever I want whenever I want it, and now I have to adhere to, we're having breakfast at this time together. You want to go to sleep at a certain time. You want me to be there too. I sometimes like to work late, So these are some things that I feel like they are taking away from my freedom to have my space. I sometimes take my space, or my body is asking for my space. So then I sit by myself in the evening. I go for a walk. Just do something by myself. This is how I kind of claim my space. Yeah, it's definitely a struggle that I feel like we haven't fully resolved how to deal with this. But I do know, and I do think it's important to have your time together and apart.
Definitely. Yes, yeah, like it can be a good thing to on purpose like take separate times, either like maybe in the morning or during the day or in the evening. That we really dedicate some space for being with ourselves to make sure that there's some kind of balance. In the beginning, I used to take it personal. Like I thought, okay, you don't like me, you don't want me. And actually it was something totally different going on. And the more I understand, the more I do not take it as personal anymore.
And I also feel like when we take our time for ourselves, then when we come back together, we are better. When you went for a walk or for a run by yourself and you come better, I feel like you're figure your shit out.
That's a very interesting point. And I talked about this a lot with my male friends, especially, like the polarization. Some couples even sleep in different beds at night, to like depolarize, as they say. Because I feel like it's natural to merge a little bit, like to like, how can I describe merging? Yeah, probably you know what I mean. Anyways. And then when you go back to doing your own stuff, you kind of go back into your own energy, and then there are two different poles again.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel like it's going back to the self-awareness piece, like we mentioned before. So when you're communicating your needs, it's best to do when you both are feeling good, like feeling conscious, feeling present. And then you can communicate what was maybe happening before, like when someone crossed your boundaries, you can maybe, because you learn about yourself also in the process. And it's really helpful if you can see that you are there present and your partner is also there present. And to have the awareness about it. Oh yeah, I have the garlic story. What do you have?
I'm very particular when it comes to food and how it's being prepared, and also certain ingredients that I don't want in my food. And yeah, we've definitely had a couple run-ins with cooking. And then I also think it just escalated because I communicated some preferences in our relationship a couple times, and then I saw you not like acting in line with those when you were preparing food, and this kind of made me feel like, okay, so she didn't listen to me, or she doesn't give a shit, because then I would have expected that when we talked about these things that you would have said, hey, I disagree, or hey, I don't do it like that. But I think in this particular incident, you were just not really aware that it was important to me.
Yeah, exactly. And it was also in the beginning, maybe the first week when I was moving in, and I was still struggling a lot with like overall anxiety. So like so many things you did, like small tiny things, the way you looked at me or whatever, blew in my head, it just blew up to some major issue. And then when you were mentioning about the garlic, and I realized that I really had missed something. And for me, it was so painful to realize that I really didn't get it because I really wanted to get it, because I'm very much afraid to make that one mistake, which you then, as my partner, find so terrible that you're going to kick me out. And then I was flooded with emotions. I broke down on the floor. I cried. You were angry. And I feel like those moments when really everything goes to shit and both are like very much in their emotions. Those are the moments when it's going to be decided if the relationship is going to stand together or not. Because if those kind of moments repeat over and over again, you will get tired. But, and this is the cool thing, if you're able to overcome them, I mean, you have this learning experience together that when you're in your deepest shit, like in your deepest trigger, and afterwards you can have the talk and you can understand yourself and each other better. You slowly, slowly develop the trust that this is a safe partner and that you are also welcome in this world through the eyes of your partner. And then the healing can happen and also the trust can really foster.
Okay. Do you think couples should live together before marriage or long-term commitments? Why or why not?
I feel like it's a very personal question. If you see yourself being together with your partner in the same flat, no matter if before or after marriage, I would always suggest yes. But if you have another lifestyle, you might be appreciating more to stay in different locations. I think it's a very personal choice, not so much defined by society.
Yeah, I think this is, as you said, personal, and no, you should not live together before marriage, but you can, and it can be an experience that shows you how marriage or long-term commitment could look like. And this might also be a bit like culturally different in some cultures. You don't move in before you're married. Like, in some countries, it's even hard to find a flat for two single of the opposite gender.
Oh yeah, sure. I have no experience with that.
All right. Next one. In my relationship, I feel like the spark is gone after moving in. Is this normal? What would you do? Have we reached our expiry dates? Yeah, depends a bit what the spark is for you. Like when you're fresh in love and you really like someone and you have the butterflies and you know everything's exciting, everything's awesome when you spend time together. That's like a bit of the honeymoon phase. I don't know where I heard this, but like being on drugs.
Yeah.
Like love is your drug in that moment, and at some point this drug will have less effects on you, and I think it's completely normal that you have maybe not this constant high of love emotions anymore, but rather than that you're more grounded with each other. And then I think it's super important that you can still feel this spark in moments, that like this is what it's about. It's okay if you're not constantly feeling overly in love and like crazy about a person anymore, but if you can like really see and value the person and then create this like small or experience this small moments of spark here and there. I think that's amazing. And this ties into the other question about space, you know, because I think when we're constantly together in the same room doing the same thing, like this attraction goes down slowly. But when then you go your way, do your thing, and I go my way, I do my thing, and then we come back together, we're fully charged, and now the attraction can spark again. And now you say something lovely, and I'm like, oh my god, you're amazing, you know? But if we're already together for 3 days non-stop, and then you say the same thing, and it's amazing, but I can't value it like that anymore, because, you know, it's kind of together and all this other stuff that we did in that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Maybe, but also, like you said, the last part, I think it's also an indicator if you go into a new environment, you experience new things, and you don't feel the spark anymore, like it's really time to sit down with your partner. Because, yeah, the attraction should be normal, even after a very long period of time. I remember when we were going to the wedding in Mexico together, and I was all evening, I was like, wow, this guy. And I really had all eyes for you, and I was like, yeah, I was just so attracted.
I think that's also putting yourself in new situations together. Like we went to a conference together. That was new. You saw me in a different light. I saw you in a different light. We went to a wedding together. We went on holidays together. But we also do other things. Like the other day, we went to a comedy event where we had no idea what it actually is.
Yeah.
It turned out to be a comedy event where we're putting ourselves again into a new environment and had a really nice experience. And like, you know.
Yeah, I feel like couples should always grow together because humans want to grow. And if you stop growing together, then it gets boring and the attraction gets lost. So this is why new environments just is like the same as growing.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, and that's been it with the questions. Did you enjoy this discussion? How we answered these questions? Do you have any thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree with some of the things we said? We're super, super curious to hear from you. So make sure to send a comment under this episode with your thoughts, your point of view, and send us a DM if you like on Instagram. We'll definitely get back to you. That's been it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in today. Tamara and I answered some of your questions about moving in together. We'll be back next time. You can expect new episodes every second and fourth Tuesday of the month. Quick reminder again on how you can support the podcast. Follow us on Instagram to stay tuned and updated on everything Hearts Wide Open podcast, events, and everyday content about men's health. And subscribe to our show wherever you listen to podcasts. And leave a review if you like what we do. Any last words of wisdom or any advice for our listeners that you have, Tamara?
Yeah, if you have a chance to move in together, do it. And also, like, give yourself some time to settle in because it's a very big step and really be conscious about the potential of growth that you have as a couple.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you, Tamara. Together, we discover healthier ideas on what it means to be a man. Take care, everyone. And until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.